everyone, and welcome to Good to Great School Australia's webinar on supporting students with special needs, our case management approach. My name is Julie Grantham. I'm the Director of Schools for Good to Great Schools Australia. I'm also a former teacher, principal and Director General of Education in Queensland. Over the next 35 to 40 minutes, we'll dive into how your school can implement a structured case management framework to address the unique academic and wellbeing needs of every student. Good to Great Schools Australia is a First Nations not-for-profit organisation founded in Cape York Peninsula. Our mission is to support the education of our future generations and all Australian students. We have a wonderful team of talented educators who work hard to serve all students in their schools. We send our greetings to First Nations people from all over Oceania and acknowledge people from all cultures. Let's start with some housekeeping. At the end of the webinar, we're going to have 10 minutes for question and answers. There's a question and answer function that's at the bottom of your screen there. Use it to ask questions at any time throughout the webinar. If we can't get to you and respond to your question, we will answer you within 48 hours. To see our presenters throughout the webinar, go to the top of the screen, click on View Select, and then select Gallery View. And finally, at the end of the webinar, a short 5-question survey will pop up after I leave the webinar. And we'd love it if you could fill that in just so that we can get some direction and know that we're fulfilling your need when you attend these webinars. So I've introduced myself. I'm joined today by two wonderful presenters, Ash and Danny, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So Ash, you first.
Wonderful. Thanks, Julie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. My name is Ashley Flower. I am a teaching coach and training coordinator here at GGSA. I've got over 13 years of classroom experience, 5 years of coaching and mentoring teachers. And in my current role at GGSA, I support schools in using evidence-based curriculum resources and professional learning programs.
And Danny's joining us today. I'm going to interrupt you first, Danny, because this is your very first webinar with us, and a very warm and special welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Julie. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, I've just joined the GGSA team as the team lead for special education. My experience, I have 18 years experience working as a teacher in primary, secondary, kindergarten. I've delivered programs in public libraries and also worked as a special education teacher. On a personal note, I'm the proud parent of a 15-year-old with Down syndrome. That led me to become a family support worker at Down Syndrome Victoria, where I supported hundreds of families with a member of their family who has Down syndrome.
Thank you, Danny. It's so nice to have you with us. So I've talked briefly about who we are, but I want to start today by touching on what we do. All of our states and territories right across Australia have the what about each of the learning areas and what schools are required to teach. Your curriculum authorities then require the school and the teacher to plan the detail of how to move from that higher level document to the classroom delivery. I know teachers who spend hours and hours doing this, hoping that they're interpreting the what correctly and that their ideas and the resources they select will meet the standard. At Good to Great Schools Australia, we take that what and we turn it into the how for you. We give the teacher guide, the lesson plans, the student workbooks, the assessment and the guides to making judgment for the learning areas of the Australian curriculum. But that's not what we're focusing on today. Today we're focusing on case management for students with special needs. And there's a little poll here. I wanted you to take a quick minute to answer one of those questions that is there. What is the biggest challenge with case management for students with special needs? Is it that coordination across the multiple team members? Is it about finding time for the planning, for the review meetings, tracking the student progress and the intervention data, making the adjustments, developing meaningful and targeted interventions? Or is there something else? And if you've got something else, please share that in the Q&A or in the chat feature. And I'm just going to be quiet for a minute and let you answer that. So just pick one of those that you think is the reason that you face the biggest challenge for students that you work with today. I always get nervous there that the poll won't come up. It's pretty well spread across, isn't it, that those developing the meaningful and targeted interventions. One of the things that Ash will talk about later is our implementation guide, and it's a very good guide for identifying all the adjustments that you can make for students depending on their particular needs. So when Ash talks about that, keep that in mind. Let's look at this webinar though. In this webinar, we want to share with you those practical approaches though to case management that support the academic wellbeing needs of students with special needs. And to do that, we'll look at a model of weekly planning and targeting interventions. We'll show how your support plans can be collaboratively, that's a big word, collaboratively developed. We'll show how student wellbeing is enhanced when those evidence-based strategies are applied. And as I said, that implementation guide is fantastic. And how good case management creates a structure that supports a full system for learners. And Danny's going to take us through some case studies on that. Before we begin though, let's look at the current challenges in Australian classrooms. Despite efforts to create inclusive environments, the data reveals that there are still significant barriers. Bullying and exclusion are alarmingly high among students with disabilities, and many still lack the adequate support that they need. These challenges highlight the urgent need for a structured, effective strategy to ensure that every student can thrive. And a practical response to today's challenge, will be demonstrated through this webinar. It will introduce practical, proven strategies that directly respond to the needs of today's classrooms. By implementing a case management approach, schools can create that inclusive, supportive environment where every child has the opportunity to succeed. So Ash, let's look at some of the professional learning modules that can support teachers to develop their own knowledge before we then look at those practical aspects for the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. So to begin, we want to introduce you to the professional learning module that underpins today's session, the Deliver Special Needs Support with Direct Instruction module. So this module is designed to be a comprehensive solution, providing practical, evidence-based strategies that educators need to confidently support our students with additional needs. It provides a clear framework for building a truly inclusive and effective classroom. The module covers the essential components of a successful special needs support program. You'll learn how to identify students' needs, use data from placement tests to tailor instruction, develop meaningful individualised plans, and ensure these practices are supported by strong school-wide leadership. It's about building a complete, cohesive system. The core component of the module is it's focused on direct instruction. DI is exceptionally effective for special needs support because it is inherently structured and individualised. By grouping students according to skill and adapting the pace of instruction, we can then ensure that every learner is working within their individual learning zone, which builds mastery and, of course, confidence. Principals and school leaders play a crucial role in shaping an inclusive culture across the school. By championing diversity, providing staff training, and leading inclusive practices, they create lasting impact for students, staff, and for families. For those of you who want to dive a bit deeper into this, there's a link to a recommended reading on this slide, which will get emailed out to you after the webinar. So the module teaches you how to use placement data to form flexible groups, monitor progress, and quickly adjust supports. Individualised learning plans bring a personalised lens to instruction, making sure that every child's pathway is regularly reviewed and genuinely student-centred.
So Danny, let's talk about now those practical ways. So the learning module that Ash has described will show people doing exactly what Danny is going to talk about now. Danny won't feature in those modules in any of the videos demonstrating practice, but we're going to talk you through what that coordinated approach to case management actually looks like.
Thanks, Julie. One of the most powerful strategies covered in the module is the implementation of a case management approach. So this is where we shift from our individual actions. So instead of thinking of yourself as the teacher who's wholly responsible for that student, we shift across to a coordinated school-wide system. So case management brings all the pieces together to ensure every student's needs are systematically met. The case management framework is structured in 3 tiers. You can see tier 1 is our universal school-wide support. So that is case management for all students with identified concerns within the school. Tier 2 brings in our external specialists. So this may be occupational therapists, physiotherapists, speech therapists, and they are for more targeted intervention for specific conditions. Tier 3 is for our clinical and high-risk support. So it's students who require that intensive clinical care. This 3-tiered framework model ensures that support is always matched to the level of need. Here's the cycle that we use, the identify, adjust, teach, review cycle. It's a simple framework within direct instruction that ensures that the teaching is targeted. It is responsive and it's effective by continuously identifying those needs. We're tailoring our support, and then we're delivering focused teaching and reviewing and refining the strategies that we're using. A key role in this process is the head of special needs. This role may have different names in different settings, such as a head of inclusion, leader of diversity. Essentially, this is usually a middle leadership position that focuses on the students at the school that have additional needs. This person drives the entire case management system. They're leading the weekly meetings, they're following up on actions, and they're ensuring that the communication between teachers, families, and external specialists is seamless. So they're the engine of this process. Ideally, every week, the special needs team meets to go through every case. So it's not a talk fest, it's a short, sharp, focused meeting to review the data, to check the progress against the goals and assign concrete actions with clear deadlines. So this regular rhythm is what makes this system responsive and effective. The individualized learning plan is the central document in the case management process. So this document should detail everything from the student's diagnosis to their specific academic and wellbeing goals. We call this a living document, which means it's constantly updated. So through weekly meetings, through observations in the moment, and they are to reflect the student's progress and changing needs. So an essential part of this case management approach is empowering the teachers. The special needs team actively coaches the teachers and provides them with practical strategies and feedback through classroom observations. This ensures that the support that is outlined in the student's plan is delivered with fidelity every single day. We also have the Wellness and Growth Hub. The Wellness and Growth Hub ensures students receive timely, personalised care that addresses their wellbeing alongside the academic process. So an important feature of the Wellness and Growth Hub is the structured wellness and growth conversations. So in your school, they may be conducted by the guidance officer, the school counsellor, or the head of wellbeing. By making wellbeing an everyday priority and actively involving families, the program cultivates resilience and readiness for future challenges. Through wellness and growth conversations, students learn to manage emotions and overcome obstacles, while families gain valuable skills to support their child's wellbeing. This collaborative approach underpins a safe, supportive, and positive learning environment for all. So specialised care. For the students who require intensive or highly specialised support, case management ensures a smooth process. The head of special needs oversees all of the external referrals. They track the progress with agencies and ensure that the support provided by those external professionals is integrated back into the student's school-based plan. At the end of each term, the case management team reviews the entire process. The student progress data is analysed to evaluate the effectiveness of interventions. This review identifies systemic issues, informs the adjustments, and ensures continuous improvement in supporting every student. Ultimately, implementing a strong case management approach creates a powerful support system The students receive the tailored help they need to thrive. The teachers feel more supported and effective. Leaders can make data-informed decisions, and families become true partners in their child's education.
Thanks, Danny. And I'm going to ask Danny shortly to then start applying all that information into practical case studies. But before we do, I notice there's no questions there in the Q&A. I'm just wondering, is there something you want to comment on? Anything you've heard Danny say there that you agree with or would like to see more of at your school? Any sort of comment that it can demonstrate the way your school is approaching case management or the care of students with those additional needs. So please feel free to chat, pop that into the chat or into put a question in. So Danny, let's now look at the practical application of that through this case study.
Thanks, Julie. So now that I've outlined the case management framework, let's just walk through a real world example. So this here is the story of Liam. He's a Year 5 student, and as you can see, he was struggling with his learning, but also his well-being. You can see that he's had difficulty with reading comprehension, experienced emotional frustration, and withdrawal during class. We're going to explore now how the school used this case management process to support him. So you can see step 1, identification and assessment. So this process began when Liam's teacher flagged his difficulties in that weekly special needs support meeting. This triggered a deeper assessment. It wasn't just about his reading scores. So the wellness and growth specialist stepped in and uncovered underlying anxiety and working memory challenges. And then conversations with his parents provided a fuller picture of his struggles. Step 2, collaborative planning and goal setting. So with a clear understanding of the challenges, the entire team, including Liam's parents, worked together to set achievable goals. You can see here how these goals address not just his academic needs, but also his emotional well-being and skill development. You can see we've got improved reading comprehension by 1 level within 2 terms. That's a very clear goal. His well-being goal was to increase classroom engagement and reduce withdrawal incidents. And his skills goal was to build emotional resilience and self-regulation strategies. This strategy means that all of those goals are connected. It identifies how connected they are in terms of looking at this individual student. Step 3 is the targeted interventions. So the plan was then put into action with a range of targeted strategies. So academically, you can see that Liam received intensive structured support. This included daily guided reading sessions, twice weekly one-to-one literacy support, and the use of visual organisers to help him with writing. For his well-being, he had regular sessions to build his resilience and practical tools to manage frustration, like the access to a Zen den. Some people call this a calm corner in their classroom. This allowed Liam to engage in self-regulation practices. Also, you can see here the life mastery classes to build his working memory. So crucially, his family was involved every step of the way. You can see step 4 here, review, monitoring, and outcome. The team just didn't set the plan and hope for the best. So they continued to review Liam's progress every 2 weeks across the term. And they were ready to make adjustments informed by that review process. As you can see, the results speak for themselves. By the end of term 3, Liam was his reading comprehension improved by 1 full year level. He had his classroom withdrawal incidents decreased by 60%. And importantly, emotionally, his confidence grew and he began volunteering to read in small groups. Those results speak for themselves. So this targeted, consistent support led to measurable gains in his learning, behaviour, and most importantly, his confidence. Liam's story shows the immense value of having a mental health professional integrated into the school team. If you remember, they identified the reading challenges and then the wellness and growth specialist stepped in to address the anxiety that Liam was experiencing. So this wellness and growth specialist was able to connect the dots between the anxiety and the reading difficulties, translating those psychological insights into practical strategies that everyone in the school team and his family could use to support him. So our key learnings that we can take away, teamwork is essential. Well-being and learning are linked. Data is crucial, and you can see how the cycle works. Identify, adjust, teach, review. Liam's success story is a powerful demonstration of case management in action. It shows that when we combine structured collaboration, a focus on both well-being and academics, and a commitment to data-driven review, we can make a profound difference for our students. So putting into practice, this is your toolkit. Here are some practical strategies that you can implement in your own classroom or school to strengthen your case management approach. Start small, be consistent. Focus on collaboration. Use data to drive decisions, and definitely celebrate the small wins. So we've covered the framework, we've seen it in action. Now we're going to break it down into these actionable steps you can take back to your school. So these tips are designed to be implemented immediately, helping you build the momentum after this webinar and create a more responsive support system for your students. So tip 1, you can see, run a micro case management meeting. So the idea of a full weekly case management meeting can feel very daunting. So start small, grab the essential people that you need for a 15-minute huddle. Focus on just one student and one goal. This makes the process manageable. It builds a habit in your school team of collaboration, and it demonstrates immediate value. So use that identify, adjust, teach, review cycle. All you need to do is set one clear, achievable action item for the week ahead. Our second tip is create a living individual plan. So an individualized plan is only effective if it's used daily. A simple hack is to make the goals visible. You could use sticky notes to capture those small but significant moments. A student using a new strategy, a moment of frustration, or a social breakthrough. The key word here is living. So making sure that that individualized learning plan moves from a static document into a dynamic tool. This makes your review meetings richer and more evidence-based. Tip 3, the 2-minute wellbeing check-in. This could look like checking in with a student and saying, how are you feeling today? Or what was the best part of your morning? If you've got a student using a Zendan or a Calm Corner, you could ask, what tool is helping you feel ready to learn today? This very small habit builds trust, and it gives you valuable insight into the student's emotional state. So supporting wellbeing doesn't always require a formal session. You can build powerful connections and gain crucial information through simple 2-minute check-ins. So prioritizing that moment of human connection before diving into tasks can really transform a student's engagement and willingness to learn.
Thanks, Danny. And that is such a practical approach. I'm just noticing there's no questions, so I encourage you to make a comment or, do you see this process being able to work in your school? This little poll is saying, which aspect of case management would you like most to improve in your school? Is it the process for identifying the students, that referral from the classroom teacher? Is it the structure of the weekly planning meetings, the system for documenting your interventions and outcomes, or the way we communicate with parents and caregivers? And we've heard Danny reference that a number of times through her presentation about the importance of that happening. Or is it something else? And please, if you have something else, then put it into the chat so that we can look and see what that is. So a quick minute to respond to our second poll. Okay, the structure of, if the structure of the weekly planning meetings is this, what you would like to see more of, we have a great tool, agendas, pro formas, anything that you would like to see there, that is part of our toolkit. Again, a quick reminder, I know Bob has said the area I'd like to improve is making the IP a living document. So Danny, we might come back to that in the question and answers if we get time. So again, remember to put that question or a comment into the relevant box. So Ash, now let's talk about, I mentioned right up front that implementation guide. This guide, everyone, is available on our website. You can download it. It's a very extensive, very well put together document that has comprehensive support for teachers when you're looking for adjustments for students with a particular need or a particular behaviour. This guide will have the answer for you. So I don't want to steal all Ash's thunder. So Ash, let's talk about that special needs support implementation guide.
Absolutely. Thanks, Julie. Yeah, at Good to Great Schools Australia, we've developed the Special Needs Support Implementation Guide to help provide you with a comprehensive resource for implementing the strategies that we've discussed today. So the guide is designed to be your go-to resource, offering actionable insights and templates to help you build a structured, responsive support system in your school. We also have further learning for teachers and for leaders as well. So Learning Labs are small group workshops designed to help educators confidently apply effective teaching techniques in their classrooms. They're a part of GGSA's professional learning modules and can be held either in person or online. They're often facilitated by a school's instructional coach. These labs focus on evidence-based modules, provide hands-on practice, and can be tailored for team sessions or individual coaching.
With each Learning Lab, participants also receive a Learning Lab workbook, which includes objectives and activities and the Special Needs Support Facilitator Guide. The Facilitator Guide provides a step-by-step script to run the session, ensuring consistency and making it easy for any facilitator to deliver with confidence. So we offer a wide...
Before you go on, Danny, I'm just going to make a comment there. One of the things that's important with all these learning labs, they have been put together by people like Danny, you know, with that deep knowledge of what we can focus on in classrooms. Educational psychologists have their input. So these are very, very in-depth, well-researched guides. And because people don't necessarily have the time to develop those materials, that's why we provide the learning guides, the teacher guide. It gives you the instruction on how to run it, when to break people into groups. They're very comprehensive. So I'd urge everyone to have a look at them. Sorry, I'm going to keep interrupting. But over to you, Danny.
Definitely. And I think the fact, you know, being a former teacher myself, the fact that they're scripted for you, it takes that sort of mental load off the teacher. The teacher can trust that the resources are effective and focus on the job of teaching, the classroom management, all those things that, you know, you should be focusing on. So I agree, Julie. Thank you so much. So looking at our special needs professional learning modules, we also offer a range of modules to support educators in delivering effective special needs education. So these include all of the ones listed on your screen and many more, covering classroom practices, leadership, coaching, and specific strategies like using matrices or teaching rules and routines. So completing these modules equips educators with practical tools, fosters consistency across roles, and ultimately improves student outcomes. So we'll touch on the professional learning modules again shortly, but as you can see on the screen, there is another recommended reading that we will also send to you at the end of the webinar. We also have another standalone curriculum on our website. It's called Every Child is Special. Every Child is Special meets the diverse needs of all students by providing a practical, flexible tools aligned with student goals and supports. So as you can see, there are 3 streams: social and emotional learning, positive high expectations, and character development. So these are for all students in the school, supporting all of their goals and supports. Teachers can deliver the short lessons or targeted activities like lunchtime chat, which take place in small groups or one-on-one, and they address specific learning, emotional, or behavioural challenges. So with these structured routines, clear expectations, and the strong focus on social, emotional, and character development, Every Child is Special creates an inclusive environment, so every learner can thrive. There's ongoing coaching and ready-to-use resources available to give the teachers the confidence to meet their students' unique needs every day.
Thanks, Danny. And I just noticed there's a few questions coming through. And Kate, I think I answered your question as you asked that question about which research has been used for the webinar and the Learning Lab information. And I think I described that to you with the practitioners, with the educational psychologists form the team to develop the materials that are then reviewed, they're implemented, reviewed, refined, and so on, so that this case management approach that we're demonstrating to you is live in a number of schools, and we get that feedback from the schools and actually then refine that and go on and keep working with that to make sure it's meeting the needs of the students. And Annie, you've asked, do you have specific support materials for Indigenous students? These materials will work in every setting. And so you'll find that those, Danny just referred to the lunchtime chats, to the special lessons that can be in the Every Child is Special curriculum. All of those materials can be adapted to any setting, and we will actually work through that with you on how that can happen. Let's go back to that mastery teaching pathway and all that professional learning that's been developed to support teachers to actually develop their skills to support this type of work.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Mastery Teaching Pathway is our professional development platform for educators and school teams. Available to all members, it offers certified training and coaching aligned with the Australian National Teaching Standards as well as school improvement goals. It's designed for everyone in education, from principals to teaching assistants, and it really equips them with those essential skills that they need for success. So our professional learning modules are grouped by purpose to support the different professional learning needs. So first of all, we have our course modules. So they focus on building effective teaching knowledge and confidence across all subjects. Next up, we have our program modules. So they offer deep training aligned to specific programs. So they include an overview of the program, teaching practices, instructional strategies and supportive resources, unit and lesson components, scenarios, assessments, and success criteria. Next on the list, we have those practice modules. So they're short, targeted lessons to address specific teaching challenges that you may be facing. And finally, we have our collegial modules. So they're designed for whole school teams to learn together. They're absolutely perfect for those student-free days with a focus on evidence-based practices.
So let's look at leading the whole school. I know that leaders in schools are always looking to support success right across the school. Our toolkit of resources, we've shown you some of them today, whether they're curriculum, professional learning, or the school improvement tool, which the case management falls into, they all contribute to school-wide support and implementation. Our partner schools who we work with thrive because they do just that. They look for these high-quality resources that support achievement in their school. If you're a partner school, we also provide an additional 10 hours support to help schools plan to meet the challenges and how they can use and deploy the resources that we've developed so effectively. So if you're a partner school and have a partner school membership, you have access to the evidence-based, explicit and effective teaching supported by the curriculum that builds skills, boosts results in the classroom. You've seen the materials through the professional learning that Ash has talked about, everything, the curriculum, the professional learning, these school improvement tools, they're available 24/7 to all members of Good to Great Schools Australia. And our additional coaching can then support that successful implementation. Right across Australia, there's about 6,200 primary schools. More than 50% now are using some of our resources. So it could be the curriculum, the professional learning, you've heard us talk about that. But the reason that's happening, I believe, is because we know that it reduces teacher workload. So teachers aren't going out reinventing the wheel and creating lessons all the time with all the resources that make that an effective lesson and those guides that then actually provide that aid to effective teaching. They aid the program delivery by increasing the student engagement. They increase student mastery of their knowledge and skills. And I think right across a staff, you get a better cohesion because people are working together to deliver the curriculum. And of course, that then tailors into the professional learning, the professional development that will go to support the teachers and the staff that actually deliver on these curriculum programs or these school improvement tools. It actually supports teachers to master those effective teaching practices. And as I say, all those resources are free. Annie, I've got one more thing to say on your question about Indigenous students in a remote setting. One of the things where this has been extensively trialled is in Indigenous remote settings. So I can assure you, I have personally observed this working well, not just in schools in more provincial or a city school, but I have seen it working in Indigenous schools. We've answered a lot of the questions that have come up, but Danny, Bob wanted to know more about making that a living document. So can you just touch on that a little bit more? You know, how do you make sure that those individual plans remain that dynamic piece of paper, and it doesn't have to be just a piece of paper, but how does it keep being responsive to those student needs by being a living document?
Sure, thanks, Julie. Yes, I think I did try to emphasize that living document, not a one-off product. I think working in schools, sometimes we go through the process where we create an individual learning plan for a student. It might be in term 1, and then we might review it again in term 3. But that document is just made and then put on one school or whatever, or wherever you file this document, and it's just left there, and it's kind of left to the teacher to be considering that in their daily practice. However, if you think of it as something that you could put up maybe on a learning wall within, you know, your learning hub at your school, whatever, you know, some schools have it in their staff room or their collaborative teaching room or wherever you want to put it. If you actually stick it up and you add your post-it notes or you write something on it physically, it just keeps it present in your mind. The other thing is having it accessible in a space, you know, digitally that everybody can access. So when you have these mini reviews, when you're meeting with your team, you know, every week to have that quick 5-minute huddle or whatever it is, or if you have once a fortnight, when you do that, you've got that document open and you're making the changes as you go. So it will include things like your teacher observations and any student feedback. It's so nice to, you know, pop in those things, you know, those quotes that when students have, you know, celebrating their success or whatever. So you're making these comments as you have those meetings. You're adjusting that document as you have the meetings. And also, I think the other thing that can be really effective is when you develop those adjustments in that process, you identify and then you assess and you decide in your team what the adjustment is. When you go back and review it and you say, well, maybe that adjustment's not working, we need to try something else. When you adjust it, maybe just highlight it so that everybody who looks at that plan can see the evolution. So they can see that this plan is not just an ILP that sits in a file somewhere, that it helps the day-to-day teaching. It's not just a compliance document. It's a relevant living document that you can draw on all the time. I hope that helps.
That's great, Danny. I think it's a very comprehensive answer and gives very practical approaches. Ash, the other thing that Danny mentioned earlier was that parental engagement and, you know, involving parents and the importance of that. And some parents aren't comfortable in that situation. And so, you know, what are some strategies to recommend getting parents in to that? And then, Danny, I'm going to come back to you because I suspect Annie is in a remote setting where there's not always that access to counsellors and to that tier 2 and 3 support group. And I'm going to come and ask you a question about that. So, Ash, you do give us some practical tips for parents, and then Danny will come to you with another question.
Yeah, perfect. I think the biggest thing with parents in particular is we really need to build that trust with them. So some helpful strategies that you might be able to use to build that trust, whenever you're having conversations or meeting with them, always lead with the strengths. So any conversation that you're having with the parents, make sure you're really highlighting what the child is doing well and just things that are going, it could be something social, emotional, it could be something academic, it could just be something organizational, like perhaps they remembered to get all of their resources out of their bag or they remembered to put their fruit break in the fruit break box. It could be as simple as that, but there's progress. There's always something to celebrate. I think a second thing would be to really simplify the process. As teachers, we tend to use a lot of jargon. So cut the jargon and just make the meetings really short and purposeful for those parents. And I think the other thing as well is we want to create those informal touch points as well, which I think Danny touched on earlier, but having those quick check-ins at pickup or even a friendly phone call just to let the parents know what's been happening at school. Again, something positive is really a bonus if we can include that. But that really helps those parents to feel valued and included before you have those formal meetings with them. I think that when parents see that you genuinely value their insight and you're not just reporting problems to them, that's when engagement really tends to increase.
Yeah, I think two key points, the jargon and practical, giving parents practical information of what they can do, what's happening with their child. They're very important points. So Danny, not everyone has, a suburb around them with lots of counsellors and psychologists and health professionals. We've got some people in very remote locations. So when that happens, how can you adapt the case management framework that you've talked about there?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. I've actually seen that firsthand very recently. I've just been to visit two very remote schools in far north Queensland that I would say are definitely applying some of these strategies that I could suggest. So I think the key really is, and I've used this word a few times, is collaboration, to make the framework that you use collaborative. So you can build internal expertise in your team. So the key staff, like your learning support teachers or your well leaders, build that expertise in kind of basic assessment tools and discussions around data so that everybody's on the same page. So you're all sharing that language and you've all got that understanding. That would be my number one. And then really importantly, to make sure that that framework is consistent across the school team. This is where I've seen the benefit of using these resources across multiple year levels. If every teacher in the school is applying the same strategies, it means that it's consistent across the school team. You're also going to get that value for the families. They kind of have learnt what to expect, and that will continue throughout the child's life at the school. The other thing is probably using peer support. So you may not have everybody available in your community or your school. You might be in a tiny school team of only 4 staff, 4 teaching staff. And of course, it's less likely you're going to have the expertise in that small team, but you could link in with nearby schools or your regional networks and try to share that specialist input where you can. The other thing is, I would say, we're in this meeting on Zoom today. You can leverage online consultation. So you could, many allied health professionals now will offer virtual check-ins or even advice sessions. So requesting advice from, an occupational therapist or, another health professional that you've identified is going to be important in setting up those adjustments for the students or reviewing those adjustments. And I think, I'll come back to collaborative again, but to make sure that it's a shared responsibility. That framework will really work if it's a shared responsibility amongst the team. So build that team, however small, have that consistent communication, check in regularly, and you can't always rely on that specialist input. It needs to be the people who are working with the students every day. So I hope that helps. For when you're in a small school and you've got limited access to those visiting professionals.
Danny, Kate has asked a follow-up question. What do you recommend for including student voice in these processes? Now, as a mum, you said yourself,
yes.
I'm thinking you're going to speak from this firsthand.
Oh, I love that. Yes, thank you, Kate. Absolutely. I think where appropriate, sometimes we can underestimate the capabilities of our students with additional needs. We might underestimate them because their verbal communication might be limited, or their behaviours may be, presenting to us an idea that, that they may not be across what's going on. But I think, yeah, absolutely, including the student voice. Like I said before, when you're doing those individualized learning plans, if a student proposes something to you, or, when you do that 2-minute check-in and you say, oh, what tools are helping you? That if they tell you what's helping them, you put that up there, put it on a sticky note. You don't have time in the classroom to be adjusting your learning plan, but put that in there. If it's appropriate for students to attend the meetings themselves, I've definitely conducted, meetings with families where the student is present. Of course, it depends on the age of the student, but the student, include the student. What works for you? Ask questions. What works for you? What helps you? And I think with the wellness and growth conversations that I've seen working in like those remote schools that I was just talking about, that really empowers the students if they have those one-to-one conversations where they feel like they're really being listened to. So I hope that's helpful. But yes, I would encourage student voice as much as possible, wherever possible.
Thanks, Danny. Everyone, we're almost out of time, but in order to access all these resources we've talked to you about today, you do need to be a member of Good to Great Schools Australia. As I said, every resource that you can see is free. As an individual member, you can access most of the evidence-based curriculum, the professional learning. You can access those tools. But if you're a partner school, there are some premium curriculum programs, 10 hours of additional coaching and some other packages that we can supply to you if you are a partner school. And you can sign up as an individual member by scanning that code there. Or if you would like to be a school partner, a partner school, then if you have your leadership, contact us at info@goodtogreatschools.org.au. We can make that happen. For attending today, you're going to receive a free gift, and you'll receive immediate access to our Every Child is Special feeling cards, and they're great as a tool to use in the classroom. To finalise today, thank you everyone for your attendance. I appreciate the engagement. I appreciate the questions, and it gives us an opportunity to interact with things that are important to you. Our team will provide copies of the content we've presented today, the recording of the webinar, the slide content. And I just want to close by thanking our wonderful presenters, Danny and Ash. I think they've done a fantastic job. And I think you can see that expertise and the depth of the knowledge of the people we have on our team. We've got another webinar next week. You can see it there, showcasing student learning and storytelling through visual arts, which you'll absolutely love if you're a teacher in the classroom of visual arts. These people are so clever with their development, and the engagement of students is second to none. Don't forget, I'm about to finish, but there'll be a short survey, 5 quick questions, and that'll certainly give us the feedback we need to make sure that these webinars are meeting your needs and responding to what you want. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your attendance, and good afternoon.